Hello guys, welcome to my John Deere Operations Center tutorial. Today we're going to show you a few things within Operations Center. So first you're going to want to log into your MyJohnDeere account by going to myjohndeere.com and using your username and password to log in. Once you sign in, you're going to notice these new MyJohnDeere Terms of Use and Conditions. For this, you're going to simply click on the I agree to the MyJohnDeere Terms of Use and push submit. And then it's going to take you to a new landing page that you might not have seen before. So within here, to get to Operations Center, you can either A, scroll down to the My Operations right here and find Operations Center here. If you're not seeing it down there, up here where it says My Applications, click on that and then click on Operations Center. Okay, so once you log in, you're going to notice a few different steps to go through the new terms and conditions that John Deere has set in place. So you'll only have to do this once after you're done. When you log in, it's just going to take you to your main landing page. But for this, what you're going to do is you're going to just read through the terms and conditions overview. Make sure that your organization name is correct, and then all of your profile information is correct as well. And then click on Next. You're going to click on what the organization is intended for use. So for this one, it's a personal org, so we're going to click on that and then put in our legal name. For this, I just like to use the same name as we use for the organization. After we have that in here, we're going to scroll down and verify that the address is correct and then push Next. Here, you're going to review the data access. So this is showing us all of our different partners within Operations Center. So notice that Horizon Equipment is a partner with myself. This is my org in here. So notice that I have granted Horizon Equipment 3232 for the equipment, organizations, location, and jobs. If you want any of that edited, you'll be able to do that here in the next few steps. Here is the terms and conditions that John Deere has set in place for their Operations Center. Once you read through all of that, you can just click on the checkbox and push Accept. And then here is where you can go in and review and edit any of those team members that we were looking at 2 slides ago. You can either go to the team manager and edit those, or if you liked how they looked in the previous slide, you can simply push Done.
Okay guys, now that you have gone in and accepted the new terms and conditions for your MyJohnDeere and Operations Center account, we're going to walk through some of the key features and tools that are available to you. So up here in the top left corner, you're going to see a button that has 4 squares. It kind of looks like a waffle or maybe like a toolbox button. By clicking on that, you're going to be able to see all of the tools that you have available within your MyJohnDeere account. Scrolling down through those, there are a lot of different options. The first one that we're going to focus on is called Field Analyzer Beta. So Field Analyzer Beta takes the agronomic data and information that you have loaded into your MyJohnDeere account from your display or other system you are recording with in the machine. And it allows you to go in and view those maps, have some different data editing capabilities, and then also run some agronomic analysis. So for this example, we're going to focus on one of the fields that we had for a research plot a couple years ago. You notice that all we had to do was select the field that we want to view from that drop-down list initially. Below that, you're going to see the option for how you would like to view that map. Right now we have it set on overview, which means we are just seeing a nice big picture of that field. If we wanted to compare that field side by side, so maybe we would like to look at our planting map on one side and our harvest map on the other, we can do that. Or you can also do the overlay, where it will actually take those 2 maps and superimpose them on one another. When you do that, you can start to play with the transparency so that you can see the different colors coming through on top of each other to find trends for that field. For this example, we're just going to leave it on the overview section. Down below that, you'll see 2 boxes, the 1 and the 2. Essentially what these do is if you are doing a compare or an overlay with your map, they are going to show you the 2 layers that you select for the picture. The other piece that this feeds into is what's called the Data Analysis tab on the bottom. So right now, we only have our harvest of soybean operations selected. So that's the only thing that we're able to see in our summary. If I come in here on our number 2 operation and select my soybean seeding, and my specific layer being the as applied rate, you'll notice it's going to go ahead and jump you directly to your data analysis tab. Now, when it does that, it's going to take all of that planting and harvest information and sort it into a nice table for you to be able to look at all of the different aspects of those 2 operations. You'll also notice up here on the legend where you see the red square with the number 1, that's going to show you which layer of the map you are actually looking at. So for this example, I am looking at the picture of my yield map. If, let's say, I was going to do the compare or the overlay feature, you would see 2 legends, one with the red number 1 box and another one with the green number 2 box that corresponds with our seeding layer. So at the bottom, once your data analysis information loads, you're going to see that there's quite a bit to sort through, but it's actually pretty simple to go through and read. So our column on the far left is going to be our as applied rate, or the seeds per acre that we planted with. This specific trial was focused on different soybean populations at different speeds, so we have quite a few different breaks in there that we can go down through. Next to that, you're going to see our total dry yield and then our average yield in bushels per acre, along with your wet weight, average wet weight, moisture, etc. So if, like in this example, you were doing some sort of a test plot on your land, or you were doing some trials for maybe a local co-op that you were working with, it makes it really simple to go back through and see which of those trials were most beneficial for your field. So for instance, we can see here that our 107,000 to 116,000 area, we had an average yield of right around 54 bushel an acre, versus our 116,000 to 126,000, where we dropped off and only had about 37.6. We know that this isn't the largest area of a field. You can see that over on the far right. But if you do this across several years or larger areas in that field, it makes it easy to find trends. Up along the top, you're also going to see a little printer button. So if you do want to go through and print this information out, you most definitely can. It's going to pop up with that map option and then also that data analysis table on the second page as well. You're going to have some other connected tools up on the top right corner too. So right now we just have the Agrian Prescription Creator. If you start tying into other third-party applications that connect with Operations Center, you can see some of those options in there as well, such as the Granular tool that we're going to talk about a little bit later. You also have your zoom functions off to the side. So maybe if you want to get in really close on a specific area of the field in order to use some of the other tools, that's the place to do it. Up here in kind of the top left area of our actual map, you're going to see a little polygon with an arrow off to the side. When we click that, you're going to see a few different options pop up. These are for the subfield analysis drawing tools that we have available. So our options for that are we can either draw a circle shape, a perfect square shape, or just click around different points if we want to focus on one specific area. So for this example, let's say we want to focus on this red spot in the middle and see just how much our yield was affected. I simply click in the shape that I want to draw around. You can have as many points as you would like. I just did 4 for this example. And you can see it's going to adjust my summary data down below. You also notice that it grays out the rest of the field, so that way you can just focus on that one specific area. However, your legend off to the side is still going to remain the same, so that way it doesn't adjust the colors too much and you can continue doing comparisons across the entire farm. So down on our summary section, you'll see that we now have 2 columns, the selected area, or the area that we focused in on when we drew our shape, and the full operation, or the entire field. So we can see that our average yield for the entire field was about 49.5 bushel versus in that one section where it was only about 41.5. So maybe we had a wet spot like we did in this case. Maybe it's just a section of the field that tends to perform a little poorer each year and we're not sure why, but we want to start honing in to see how that specific area of the field is impacted by different application layers, different seeding rates, you name it. These 2 columns also filter down through to show you the rest of your information as well, such as the specific area that you're comparing, moisture, and so on. If I had listed my 2 operations in the opposite order on the side, so my number 1 being seeding versus my number 2 being the harvest, then this section of the data summary would pull in that seeding layer information instead. So instead of seeing my average dry yield, wet weight, and so forth, I would see things like my as applied rate and planned rate. You can also see we have our entire list of varieties that were planted in this field off to the side. So again, if I had switched my two layers, the number 1 and number 2 on the side, and had seeding as number 1, harvest as number 2, that would also feed into my data analysis table where I would be able to look at my yield information by variety instead of just by my application rate. Another way that you can change that are these layer options on the side. So maybe if you are looking at a spraying application versus seeding, you want to look at maybe the plain prescription rate that you had set out to see how closely that planter or that sprayer actually followed the prescription.
Next, we're going to talk a little bit about a third-party company that is connected within Operations Center called Agrian Prescription Creator. Previous over here in the connected tools drop-down, we showed you that you can simply click on that Agrian Prescription Creator right here if you're on the field that you want to create that prescription for. Otherwise, up here with the 4 little boxes with a bigger box around it, you can do that drop-down and choose the Agrian Prescription Creator tool there as well. So for this one, I'm going to just come up to the connected tools, click on the Agrian Prescription Creator, and since we were in that client farm and field name already, it should preload those for us here once we get into the third-party company. Okay, so notice here, like I was saying, it already pre-populated our Horizon Field Trial Organization, client of Hagen, farm plot, and our field of plot 2018. Up here is where we choose what kind of prescription type we want to create. So notice we can create an application or a seeding one. So one for either spraying or doing anhydrous or going out and planting, or we can do a tillage one if we have that TrueSet technology on a piece of toolbar. So for this one, we're going to just focus on an application and seeding prescription. Down here, we have to have a field boundary loaded into Operations Center for a prescription to be created. So we already have that field boundary selected. And then down here, we can choose a layer for our prescription source to be created from. So once we drop that down, notice we're going to have 3 different options to choose from. The first one is a field operation. So this is choosing from a previous yield, planning, anything like that. If we have a spraying one that we want to go off of, or a soil type that we pulled in from a third-party company, we can pull from there. Freeform zones is going to just allow you to create zones that you want to pick on the map layer. And then soil survey is pulling in a third-party company to create those soil zones within your map. So if you wanted to just create it off of a soil survey, then you can do that here. So for this layer, we're going to actually choose a field operation, and we're going to create our prescription off of our harvest data from 2018. So I want to create it from the layer of harvest yield. Notice that we can do speed, moisture, wet mass, elevation, fuel rate, any of those different layers that we want to pull in, we can choose as well. For this scenario, we are going to do harvest yield. So once we have all of this filled out, we're going to come down to the bottom right and click on the green next button. And this is going to pull up our map along with the different zones that we can break down to create our prescription side by side. So notice on the left-hand side, it's pulling in our field. So our field is the plot 2018. Over right here on the right, it's going to show us our map that we have for that field boundary. Notice it's already broke down our different zones. Over here, we can see the number of zones that it's breaking down from. So it's going to pre-populate to 5 zones. If we didn't want that many, we can come over here and we can choose a different zone number. We can either lower it or raise it. For this scenario, we're going to actually only do 3 zones. So once we click 3 over here, notice it's going to pop up with a pop-up box asking you to update that map. You want to click on Update Map. And it's going to combine a few of those zones to break it down to have only 3. So notice we have 3 zones over here. We have an orange, a yellow, and a green. So over here, we're going to actually create a seeding prescription for this one. So I want to add in a variety. So I'm going to just come in here. I'm going to choose a product that I'm going to be placing on that field for this year. So I'm going to just choose a Pioneer number for this scenario. Right here is our span and our area. So it's going to show you how many acres are in each one of those zones, correlating to the bushels per acre. So our orange zone, notice when I highlight it here, it highlights it over here as well. So our orange zone is anywhere from 3 to 45 bushels per acre. Our yellow zone is 45 to 53 bushels per acre. And our green zone is 53 bushels to 75 bushels per acre, and correlating to our acres that it has. Down here, you can choose what seeding rate that you want to put for each one of those zones. So for this scenario, our lower bushels per acre, I'm going to actually do a lower amount. So I'm going to do 32,000 seeds per acre, and I'm going to just raise that up as I go. Once you have the different rates that you want in there, and you like the map how it is, you can come over here and choose Save. Once you save that, you're going to see that it pops up with a pop-up box saying that your prescription is saved. Your new zone prescription will be available in the Files selection in your Operations Center. So we can go back and we can choose OK. We can close it. If we needed to edit anything, we can do that here. Once we're done creating our prescription, we can just X out of that tab. So like it said in that pop-up box, we can come to our little 4 boxes up here and go to our Files tab. So I'm going to scroll down. Notice that everything is alphabetized within the drop-down. I'm going to scroll down to Files, and I'm going to click on Files, and notice right here it named our prescription Plot 2018, and it has our variety that we chose there. This is a type of a rec, so it's a seeding prescription. So if we just know that's the one prescription that we need to send to our piece of equipment, we can simply click on that, come up, and we can send that file to whatever organization that we need to. So for this, I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you how you can look at that prescription. So we created it, right now, but we're not going to be planning for a little bit. But once it's time to plan, I want to look at that prescription to make sure it's how I wanted it before. So I'm going to come over to the fields. I'm going to come down to our Plot 2018, and I'm going to come over to the Details button. I'm going to click on the little I, and it's going to pop up some different information. Over here on the left-hand side where it says Prescription, if you click on that, it's going to pull up that prescription map that we just created for that operation. So notice right here, this Plot 2018 with our seeding prescription is the one we just did. We're going to click on View Details, and you can view the legend correlating to the prescription map layout that we have over on the right-hand side.
Okay guys, so now that we're on the topic of different third-party applications and companies that tie in or partner with your Operations Center account, we're going to talk a little bit about the Granular financial functions. This isn't something that we are going to spend a ton of time on, but we do want to make you aware that it is an option that you have available and then let you in on some of the different discounts that they have going on currently. So up in your little toolbox function, like Taylor mentioned, it is alphabetized. You'll notice that you'll have the Granular box here. So that is going to default and show up no matter what, even if you've never used it before. And then once you do start using it, that's when it will start tying into different features such as Field Analyzer Beta. So if we click on our Granular third-party link, it's going to take us actually to the Granular site where we can start tying in our information. So one of the big key features of the Granular tie-in are that we can get free average estimate profit maps for all of our fields. You'll see that button right here on the left-hand side. If I click that, it's going to bring up an option to start tying in my information. Okay, and now it's going to ask to make sure that it's okay with you that Granular Profit Maps is connecting to your Operations Center account. In order for you to be able to see those free profit maps, you do have to allow this access. Just click the checkbox and hit allow. Okay guys, so now that we've gone into our Field Analyzer Beta section, we are going to actually jump over to the Machine Analyzer portion of it. So up in our toolbox, if we scroll down to the M section, you're going to see a tool in here called Machine Analyzer. Now, if you have somewhat newer John Deere equipment that has the right hardware in it, or what's called an MTG, then your machine does have the option to send in different information to your Operations Center account. Machine Analyzer is going to focus on the actual usage data that is coming from those pieces of equipment. So right now we're just going to view our performance data. Those are things like our hours, engine load, fuel usage. You can even customize by date range. So let's say that I want to look at the lifetime of my equipment. I'm just going to select the lifetime option. That's essentially just going to pull all of the information that that machine has had stored or sent in from the time that it was built at the factory. Down below, you can see that we've got our different machine types. So for our situation, we're going to focus on combines. So by clicking that checkbox, you can see that it selected all three of our models, our S660, S670, and S680. If I, let's say, only wanted to focus on two of them, I could unselect the model that I don't want to see or select one that I do want to go ahead and add in. Over here in the table section, this little arrow next to where it says combine harvesting is what is going to allow you to actually start breaking this information down by model or even by specific machine. So let's say that you have three different combines on your operation and they are all S660s. For our situation, we only have one, but you could start looking at each individual machine to compare the performance and see if there are things that you could improve on some of the operation. So for our situation, let's say that we have one of each on our farm and we are trying to decide what to trade into for the next year. Maybe we're trading in the S660 and we want to decide whether we need to go to something bigger or keep the same size. So you can see our S660 versus our S670, somewhat comparable in hours. Our S670 is going to have a little bit more, but over here on the side is where we can start looking at the actual usage of those hours. So the blue section of the bar graph is going to be our working hours. So in other words, those are the hours that we are actively harvesting with that machine. The gray section in the middle are going to be our transport hours. And then the orange are going to be our idle hours, or the hours that the engine is running, but we are not actively working. So within our S660 row that we have here, we can see that about 13% of our time was spent idle, which isn't too bad when you consider that's only about 150 hours out of almost 1,200 total. For our S670, we're sitting at about 15%, which makes sense when you consider we've got about 400 more hours on that machine, but only about 50 more idle hours total. So for all intents and purposes, it looks like these two machines are performing quite similarly, so we know that we don't have an issue with the operation of them. However, if you start to see this orange idle number raise off to the side, maybe that's a time when you need to start looking at how frequently that operator is stopping to unload or stopping and just letting the combine run while taking care of other issues in the field. If you wanted to, you could even export this information. So for larger growers or cooperatives, people that have a lot of equipment, if you want to have this in a report form that you can sit down and look at later, maybe at night, it's very, very simple to do so into an Excel document. You can also customize what you view in this specific section. So if you wanted to customize your view and add in things like fuel usage, engine load, or other factors that can tie more into the performance of the machine and not so much the operator to find issues, you could add those in as well.
Okay, next we're going to talk about a few different support resources that we have for this upcoming spring cleaning season. So Horizon Equipment has came up with two different support hotline numbers that you can call in if you're having troubles with your displays, receivers, anything with applications. So that would be sprayers and hydrants. We have two different hotline numbers for those. So the first one is our Precision Ag Support Line hotline number. That is 712-248-4920. This is the number that you're going to want to call if you're having troubles with setup on your 2600 or 2630 display, as well as your Gen 4 4600 or 4640. If you're having trouble with signal, wide narrow gaps, TCM calibrations, guidance, any of the above stuff, you will want to call that number and we can help you out there. The second hotline number is our application support hotline number. That number is 712-481-9600. This number is going to ring one of our application specialists. He will help you walk through anything with sprayers. So if you have troubles with getting something set up correctly on the sprayer itself, any questions with anhydrous, why something isn't working correctly there, any of those questions, you can call this number. Any other questions you'll just want to call if it's something tractor related or combine related, you'll want to just call your service department at one of those locations and they can help you out there. Notice over on the right-hand side, there's a few other support resources that we have available to you as a customer. The first one is our Horizon Equipment app. So if you just go into if it's Android or if it's Apple, you can just go into your Play Store or Apple Store and go and type in Horizon Equipment. It should bring you up with a logo that looks similar to this, our Horizon Equipment logo, and you can download our Horizon Equipment app. Within there, you're going to notice that you can come up to the right-hand side, or the left-hand side, excuse me, with the three little lines, and you can come down to what's called support guides. Here is quick little steps of different display setups, receiver setups, AutoTrack setups. So if you're not quite sure how to set up an AutoTrack AB curve line in your Greenstar 2600 or 2630 display, you can click on this PDF and it's going to have pictures and words to step you through that to get that set up correctly. We're also going to have RTK tower locations loaded in here. So this app will actually have a blue dot of where you're at, and then you can look at the different RTK tower locations to see which one you're the closest to. If you forgot a salesman number or an IS specialist number and the support hotline isn't working, you can look up those contact informations within the app as well. And then lastly is our My Horizon portal. So you can see that over here on the right-hand side. This is going to allow you to go in and search for different parts. So if it's after hours during the planting season and you're like, hey, I just broke down, I'm going to need this part, you can come in here and you can do a quick search to look up that part. And you can look up different locations to see which location is going to have that available for you in the morning. You can actually purchase that part here on the My Horizon portal, and they will have it ready for you in the morning when you go in.